Tech for Seniors, July 13th, 2020, episode 16. Well, we did it, Hewie. 16 episodes.
16.
Whoa!
All right.
Bob's away this week. We'll talk about Bob in a minute. And Dewie, give us a wave. Dewey's going to do part of the Hewie Dewie team here. Then we're going to have a big show for you today. Next week, we have a special guest. We have Ray Baxter talking, and he's going to be talking on using Zoom with a music listening club. This should be a really, really great talk. I know Ray's here today. Ray came down and did a presentation at our computer club this last year on digital music, and it's outstanding. So if you are looking for a presentation for your club, he's an APCUG speaker, and it would be just great to, it's a great presentation if you haven't heard it. So we look forward to Ray next week. That will be just fine. So you don't have to listen to Hewie and I talk all day, right, Hewie?
Yep. Although it's fun listening to us.
Yes. So now, this week, I actually had an interesting talk with one of my friends, Bob King, who's from Viewpoint. Had an interesting talk this week with Bob King, who's in the computer club at Viewpoint down in Mesa, and we were talking about what it's going to look like in this fall when we start back down there, and probably most of us won't even be going back before the new year, depending on what the situation is. So we'll probably start doing virtual meetings, and this is important because all your clubs need to be thinking about virtual meetings. And one of the things that has come up was membership in APCUG, and I'd like to just remind everybody, if they're not a member of APCUG, you really should consider that, because it is a big network of clubs across Canada and the United States that will help you with your digital meetings.
Ron, if I could interject, you as a member are not a member of APCUG, your club joins.
Correct.
So if you're a member of a club that's not a member, you want to make sure that the office make arrangements to join. And it's about, what is it, $50 a year? I believe so.
Yeah. And
Ray Baxter can nod his head if it's $50 a year. Yes. Okay.
Yeah, so it's $50 a year. So I would really encourage you to, never before are we going to need help, and are we going to need with these digital meetings that we're going to probably be doing. Also, Judy Tallur just sent out an email today, earlier today, on listings of all the clubs and their websites, and you know, if you have a club, you could partner with another club and have a meeting together, and have a guest speaker, and have a meeting together, and do some stuff like that. So there's lots of things that you can do with this, and then there's also our speakers bureau, and you'll be able to get some speakers as well. So I think we have to be creative in this coming year, because it doesn't look like it's going to be physical face-to-face meetings with our computer clubs.
And another thing is, you can divide your meetings. If you're used to having a meeting at 7 o'clock at night, only because that's when you could get a hall or a place to have the meeting, now you can do them. You could have a short meeting, just a Q&A session, a help session or something, anytime during the day, and do it a couple of times a week instead of a couple of times a month, or instead of just once a week. You can meet, have some people meet in the morning and other people meet in the afternoon.
Right, and Bill James has done 3 excellent presentations on Windows. He did one last week on file management. So there's that 6 hours of taped stuff that's about Windows. Now you could break that up into half-hour presentations and do it in your club, and it would be great. You could do they were very good videos, and you could do half an hour, 30 minutes, and then do a little talk on what you saw. So you've got lots of content there, and that you can use in your clubs, and I think that's great. Speaking of Windows, I want to just give you some stats. As you know, 2004 is being released now. But if you go back over, if you look at Windows, there's 2 releases a year. There's the big feature release and there's a small release. Last year, of course, there was 1903 was the big one, and then there was 1908. Now, 1903, 35.7% of users upgraded, and 1908, almost 50%. So there, if you look at all users of last year, of 2019, about 80% of Windows, which is just over 1 billion users, upgraded their Windows 10 machines. So this year, the 2004, Microsoft is rolling it out sequentially, and this year 7% so far have upgraded. Now that's how much they've rolled out and how much people have upgraded. And that's and as compared to last year at the same time, same place, would be about 6.3%. So we're about on track of what happened with the releases last year. So you can imagine they've got over 1 billion to do. So this is a big project, and will take. So you may be seeing this coming up in the next few months, because they don't release it to all the computers at the same time.
You can see I'm not at home. This is being recorded in a hotel room in Logansport, Indiana, where I'm visiting for my great-granddaughter's high school graduation. Here now is the Security News Roundup for the week ending 7/10/2020. Have you or someone you know use 23andMe or Ancestry DNA? It may sound appealing or innocuous to want to discover more about your roots or genealogy, but what happens to the DNA you provide once it's in the hands of these companies? Last week, Florida became the nation's first state to enact a DNA privacy law, prohibiting life, disability, and long-term care insurance companies from using genetic tests for coverage purposes. Remember, if you lose privacy of your social security number and your DNA, that's it. You've given up all of you. Don't do it. U.S. reportedly investigating TikTok again over children's privacy. The probe by the FTC is examining whether the popular video sharing app failed to live up to its 2019 agreement to protect children's privacy. Reuters reported while the Trump administration is considering a total ban. In 2019, the app's operators agreed to pay $5.7 million to settle FTC charges that it violated COPPA by failing to obtain parental consent before collecting personal info on kids under the age of 13. TikTok also failed to delete that personal information when it received complaints from parents and their children, according to the FTC. North Korean state-sponsored hackers are implicated in the interception of online payments from American and European shoppers. Sansec research shows hackers associated with the APT Lazarus Us Hidden Cobra group were found to be breaking into online stores of large U.S. retailers and planting payment skimmers as early as May of 2019. COVID-19 tracking apps are easy targets for hackers. In their haste to bring COVID-19 contact tracing apps to market, many developers around the world have skimped on security, giving hackers easy targets from which they can steal all kinds of sensitive information, such as the names of the sick, national ID numbers, location data, and more. Countries have been developing the tracking apps in an effort to identify disease hotspots and limit the spread of the virus, while they ease lockdown orders. Qatar, India, the UK, and the Netherlands are just some of the nations who learned their tracking apps had security flaws only after they'd been put into use. Details exposed from one breach could be reused to compromise accounts used elsewhere. The Digital Shadows photo research team has spent 18 months auditing criminal forums and marketplaces across the dark web and found that the number of stolen usernames and passwords in circulation has increased by 300% since 2018. There are now more than 15 billion of these stolen credentials from 100,000 database breaches available to cybercrime actors. Of these numbers, some 5 billion are said to be unique with no repeated credential pairs. Consumers should use different passwords for every account, and organizations should stay ahead of the criminals by tracking where the details of their employees and customers could be compromised. Use a password manager and change your password often. Club Billion leaks personal data of millions of users. Casino app Club Billion suffered a massive data breach as discovered by researchers doing a web mapping project when they stumbled upon an unsecured Elasticsearch database hosted on Amazon's web services. The records included every action taken by the player, winning, losing, updating account, etc., as well as email addresses, private messages, IP addresses, and more. The researchers alerted Club Billion of the breach on March 23rd. A couple of weeks later, the open database was secured. Stay safe. See you next week.
That's all, folks.
Okay, I'm on an iPhone 8. And so the button that we're going to use is the home button at the bottom of the screen and the sleep awake button on the right. So let's go ahead and let's open up the messages here. And then I'm going to click those two buttons simultaneously. It took the picture. Here it is. When we click it, we have a picture, and we can actually edit. We can draw. Let's do this. Okay, and we can I tried to draw an arrow there. I didn't. Draw on the screen if we need to. Go back with the black one, and we can say, okay, right here. So we now have our picture. When I go to Done, Save to Photos, and if I go now out to Photos, we look at the photos. Let's see if it's here. It's right there, and there we go. So we now have a screen capture of whatever we want on the iPhone. If you have an iPhone newer than the 8 and it doesn't have the home button at the bottom, then you will click the button on the right. If it's an iPad, it's going to be the button at the top. And then the up volume button at the same time, and you'll have the same effect. These are the two buttons now on an Android phone. We're on our Samsung S Plus 8 Galaxy, and we're going to attempt to do a screen capture on it. And with this, what we have to do is we have to click the down volume and the power button at the same time. So let's attempt to do that. Let's go to find a program. I'm going to take this so we have something on the screen that we recognize. Just a list of some things on a card star, and I want to get a screen capture of that. So I'm going to press the volume down and the home or power button, which is on the right side. The volume down is on the left side above the Bixby button, and I'm going to click both of them at the same time. And it flashed, and now we see at the bottom. So if we click this, we again see the picture. I'm going to mark it up. I'm just going to say okay. Okay, here. Mark here, and we'll say I want to do this. Okay, and we've now gone ahead and save it. There it is. And if we go now to our gallery, it is there. And we're done. We've got a screen capture. That's how easy it is. Now this is how you take a screenshot in Windows 10. There's a keystrokes of Shift, Windows key, and S is the shortcut.
As it said in the article, we're going to do a Windows, Shift, and then S. We get this, and we can say, okay, we want to capture these items right here. Let go. We now have it. It's saved to the clipboard, and we can do whatever we want with it. And if we look over in the snip and sketch, it's there. We can then save it to our hard drive wherever we want, and we can call it from APCUG. We save it, and we now have that as a file. So we'll move this out of the way. We're still back on that site. We've got our screen capture.
And this is how you take a screenshot on a Mac. You do the Command Shift 5, and that's it. And a little bit later, I'm going to talk about a program called Snagit that I use to do the same thing, but even more. And with that, we will stop sharing and turn it back to Ron.
Thank you. Thank you a lot. That's great. So today I wanted to talk about a situation that occurred this last week with me and my wife. We decided to clean out our storage room, which no one has wanted to tackle at for the last 40 years. And in the process of doing that, we discovered 2 boxes of old photographs, pictures in our early life, right? And so my question today, so we had this big discussion. I said, throw them out. We haven't looked at them in 40 years. Who's going to want to look at them? And so Gail sort of got emotional about that. And then we sort of had a big chat and a compromise. And I thought, how many of you 60 people that are listening to the show today have boxes of old pictures? And what do you think we should do with these boxes of old pictures? Now, there be many of you who will say, I know Ray Baxter sent me a very detailed list of how he digitized all his pictures and put them online. Is that something that should be done? Or do you think if you do put them online, do you think anyone's going to look at them? Do you think that we should just leave them in the storage room, and after we die, the kids will have to do something with them, right? So we don't want to deal with it, right? It's sort of an emotional thing. And I was thinking about it because it's actually quite different now. You see, what happened with us is we got married, we had our first child, and we had time, and I was building up my practice, and so Gail started making photo books. So we have some albums, but then child number 2 came along, and oh my gosh, we got super busy. And then we started taking all these holidays and traveling, and and so we didn't have time to make photo books. So all those cruises and everything that we went on, they just got put in the storage room in the box where we put all our pictures, right? Then, of course, 20 years ago or 25 years ago, digital pictures came along, and that all changed. Can you imagine if you went on holidays with your family now, most of your kids would have cell phones. They'd all be taking digital pictures, right? So what would you have? A common album, maybe on Google Photos, and you sort of put all your favorite pictures in there, and they'd all be stored. But back when we were, back when all of us, and I'm going to say that all the 60 people here, it was different. We had slides, we had Ektachrome, we had Kodachrome, we had all sorts of, we had physical things that we took, we actually have stored now. And so it'll never happen again. We'll never be in this. We're the last of a group of people that actually took physical pictures. And now we have these pictures. What are we going to do with them? So I wanted just to address a couple of things. I was going to get everybody's impression and do a question and answer thing, but I think with time, I want to just share my screen, and I want to talk just give you some tips on what we decided, and some things that you might want to consider. So I'm just going to share my screen. And can you see Tech for Seniors? Can you see that, Huey? Is it up? Can you see the pictures here from Google Photos?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right. So the first thing that here is the box of pictures out of our storage room, and you know, it's sort of a mess. There, a lot of them were in frames and stuff like that. So we decided to take them out of the frames. Now, so there are plenty of videos around that show how to digitize and get a scanner and put them up into Google Photos or wherever you want to store them online. I did a video which I showed you earlier in the Tech for Seniors, and I'll put the link in the video in our show notes today on how to do a photo album in 13 minutes. I don't know if you remember the 150 pictures I did in 13 minutes. But what I wanted to tell you that even better than that, I'm going to show you a picture that I took. Now, this is what I want to talk about today is just taking a picture of the photograph. Now, this is a picture, and I'm purposely showing it this way. This is a picture taken in 1914, and this is a picture of my wife's mother. All right, so this is no, this is actually Gail. Yeah, this is Gail's mom, Peggy. So I took my Pixel 3 and I took a picture of it. So I wanted to show you this. And now what we're going to do is we're going to edit this. So we're going to come up and I'm going to click the button. Come over here, and we're going to come down here and we're going to actually edit this a little bit. And if we want to sort of move it around a little bit, we can, don't want to do that. But if I wanted to just change the way it looks here, we can just move it a little bit like this, and maybe move it a little bit like this. This is when she was, this was taken in 1914. And so we can say now this is done. And we click here, and this is the picture that we have. So what I wanted to tell you, it's so easy to simply, if you have an old picture, just take it out of the frame and take your regular digital camera, like on your phone, and just take a picture of it. And you will, and instantly you'll have a digital picture. Now I wanted to show you some of the pictures that I did. These are simply pictures, old pictures of our family, and I just took a picture of them. This is not scanning them. It's not using photo scan. This is simply taking a picture of this is my dad. He was on the golf course. This was my mother. And this was a family portrait we had, and this is again the family. Now this is a blast from the past. This is another reason why you actually should go through your pictures and do something. That's Gail. And I'm going to show you another one that's even more crazy. Who in the world is that? Now you're going to say that's when I was 12 years old, right? But it's not, because I don't ever remember this picture being taken. But if you look at Gail's ring here, that means we were married. In fact, I'd already graduated from medical school, and I don't even look old enough to shave in that picture, you know. And that's it was pretty cool. So I threw that on Facebook and said, "Guess who this is?" And thank you for all you people that gave some neat comments on it. It was sort of fun. So taking these pictures that you have in these boxes and simply just taking them out of the frame, just take your camera, take a picture of it. It's so easy to edit in Google Photos or whatever program you want, and you can and put it online, and bingo, you've got your pictures. So I thought I would just tell you about that today because it's so simple to do. You don't have to buy a scanner. It's not laborious. Just take a picture of it. And in fact, these required very little editing to do. I just cropped them a bit, and they were just taken on my desk right here in my office. And those are the pictures that, and we put them in an album called Family Pictures, and boom, it's done. It's so simple. So all I'm going to do is take those boxes of pictures. Gail's going to sit there and she's going to put each picture down. I'm going to take a picture of it, and boom, we'll have them all up in the cloud before we know it. And you know, it's fun for Gail and I to look at them. Will somebody else ever look at them? Who knows? I mean, I don't know. So anyway, that's what I wanted to show everyone today. We can maybe have a talk. We got some time at the end. We can talk about what you want to do. Do you want to leave them in the box and not deal with it? Do you want to, you know, what are you going to do with these pictures? We're the only people left. We'll never, the next generation will never have to deal with this, but we will. So I just thought, well, it's an interesting dilemma. All right, I'm finished. Hewie, take it away.
Hewie, unmute.
Why would I want to do that? You might hear me. I'd like to talk about Snagit, another way of doing screen captures using a program called Snagit from TechSmith, the same people that do Camtasia. They do have, I believe, a Mac version, and I use the Windows version. And let's see what I demonstrate here, and then I'll talk briefly about it, and we'll continue at that point. I hope I still have the sound on. I may not. Right now, that's not sending.
If you do a lot of screen captures for presentations and so on, I highly suggest something called Snagit.
We can hear it.
Good.
Yep, we can hear it.
And this is what it looks like. You'll also see it up here that it's a drop down, and it doesn't have to be there. I can turn that. That's a feature I can turn off. And there's also some presets that you can have. Now, there's so many different things that you can do with Snagit, and I'm just going to show you a couple of things. One is the scrolling that you can do. So I'm going to change this to scrolling window, and I'm going to open up a website. And Marshall, I am going to pick on you today because he's the webmaster of this. I'm going to go to the stug.org website, and he's got a great website, lots of information. The one thing about the website, and some websites are like this, others are not, but when I reduce the size of the screen, you have to scroll. Some change the size automatically, but let's say you're on a website like the Stug and you want a screen capture of this whole website page. What do you do with Snagit? I can say I want a scrolling window, and then I want to capture it. So I'm going to come up here and I'm going to hit capture. Notice the arrows. That means it's going to scroll as it captures. I'm going to come down to this one here that says scroll the entire, capture the entire scrolling area. Watch what it does. It moves down, moves over and up, and over a little bit more, gets the rest of it. I'm not touching this. It's doing it all automatically. It's processing the capture. And now it opens up the Snagit editor. You'll see the whole page here. Excuse me, and that's 15% of its size. If we make it the actual size, you'll see here that I have this as an entire page, and I can then I can mark it up, I can do things on it, I can put some shapes on it, I can do some arrows to it and so on. And when I'm done with it, I can say I want to save it as, I can put it wherever I want, give it a name, and then save it, and it will save it as either a PNG, a GIF, a JPEG, and all these other formats as well. You can save it in any one of those and then use it for later. So, and then once you've got that large picture, you can go back and then crop out various pieces and parts of it and have all of your captures in one from one source. So that's one of the things I really like about Snagit. Okay, the next thing that I want to show you that you can do with Snagit is you can grab text. So I am going to now, instead of looking at Marshall's website, I'll minimize this and close the editor. And so what I'm going to do is I am going to open up, let's see, I'm going to open up the documents, presentations. I'm going to go to the browsers, and I've got, oh gosh, I got this long list of items. And let's see, I'm going to say, okay, let's go ahead and grab all this text. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say in here, I've already got it set for grab text. I'm going to say capture, and I want to capture just all of that. So I'm going to say, okay, there. It's grabbing the text. I click copy all, and then I can either open it up in my Notepad, which is a straight text editor. You'll notice it then loses all of its formatting and doesn't, it's there, but it's, you know, it may not be what you want. But if you open up WordPad, and both of these programs are free Windows accessories, but you can open it in whatever program you want. But when I do it in this, I have a nice list of everything, and you'll notice that I can highlight these. This is all text, and then I have it all as text. So it's a very nice feature. Now there's one other thing in Snagit that I really like is the ability, let's come back over here and we'll close this and close this, and we're going to stay right where we're at because I want to go over here. One of the other things that I can do is I can look at the presets, and I have some presets. Let's look at the one that I have set for browsers, and I can actually create a hotkey, and then I have some settings. If I go into the edit settings, you'll see one of the things I can do, I can share the file, and I can say automatic file naming, and I can automatic name the files. I can give it a prefix. So this one I call browsers _, and I want to number them with 4 digits starting with the number 1. So it's going to be 0001. So it's going to be browser 0001 for the first picture, and then thereafter, and you'll see what that means here in just a second. And I'm going to cancel that. And then also under that same thing, under fixed folder, I can point where I'm going to send that. And right now I've got it, I have it going to over here under, let's see, we're going to close the Snagit editor. We're going to show you here that under, I've got a folder called screen captures. And notice as I took pictures of each, as I went through, as soon as I took a screen capture, it named it browsers _003.jpg, and it was done. And then I found something else I wanted to capture. It gave it the next name, 4, and then 5, and then I went in and edited some of them, and so that's why there's a second name to them. But notice 44, 45, 46, 47. So all you have to do, so if you're doing a process and you want to document it, you just tell it, okay, I want to, and let me show you what I mean by that, is I can just say, okay, we're going to, the preset is there, and we're going to go to browsers, and I can close this. And so I've got it under browsers. And so all I have to do is bring the arrow down here, click that. I say, okay, what do I want? I want this part right here that's highlighted. I click it, and I got it. So it's there, and I say, okay, take a picture. I may not have it set up right. Again, this is a new computer. It automatically puts it in there or it should have. And when it does, I can look down here and it's going to be the first open number. So because I've deleted some, we may not find it right away, but it puts it right in the folder and I'm done with it and I go on to the next item. So I don't have to stop, and you'll notice a couple of windows popped up. Well, normally if I've been working with this, it will just do it automatically and I'm ready to continue on with what I'm doing. And it saves the picture, it names it, puts it where I want it, and they're all there together. And so that's Snagit. Okay, they rate it, PC Magazine rates it 4.5 excellent. The pros are it's flexible and powerful. It's integrated. You can actually make a GIF. You can create a GIF out of it. You can do panoramic scrolling, captures, drop-down menus, borders and image effects, exports to cloud storage, mobile app Wi-Fi syncing, and has OCR functionality. The con is it's expensive. It runs about $50. However, if you're doing a lot of training, you can consider yourself an educator. You can go into their education page and order the education version of it, and it's about half the price, and they don't ask where you're teaching, or they don't ask anything about it. But make sure, be honest with them. If you're using it to teach people, then by all means you can purchase it cheaper. Otherwise, it's $50. And then each year there's a newer version that comes out, and the update's about $25. The education update is about $15. It's a great program. I've been using it since the early 2000s, probably the late 1900s. I first saw it at a Comdex and got a free version of it at their booth, and have been using it ever since, and I've updated it over the years. So I highly recommend it. If you do a lot of screen captures, it's a great program to have in your arsenal.
There we go.
Well,
It didn't work just the way I wanted it to. I still don't have things set up on this computer, but normally I hit the red button, and I outline the area that I want to capture, and it clicks, and I'm ready to go for the next item, or to the next step in what I'm doing to grab the next picture. It automatically names it, numbers it, and puts it where I want it to go.
thank you very much, Huey. Dewey, you're ready.
Well, by gosh, you're giving me more time than I really need, but we'll see what we can
Well,
do.
you don't have to use it all up. We certainly have time for questions. after.
Okay, fine.
Don't worry about
Well,
it.
anyway, you began the program today talking about, or today's session talking about Windows 10 version 2004, which is being rolled out, and I would like to speak to that. Sometime in the next several months, Microsoft will endeavor to update every Windows 10 computer to its latest version, 2004. The 2004 designation stands for the year 2020, fourth month, which is April. As I said, you spoke on it at the beginning, but I have a little different take on the subject. I'm suggesting that users be very cautious about this update because it seems to be unusually buggy. Everyone's Windows 10 operating system will eventually be updated unless the user consciously works to avoid the update until Microsoft takes care of fixing all of the problems. I was not able to determine if Windows is already downloading this 2004 update to regular users like you and I. Ron mentioned that 6 to 7% of users already have the update, but my hunch is that these people are ones who intentionally chose to get the update. My suggestion is to defer getting the update as long as possible. Deferring the 2004 update is done in Windows settings under the last settings category, which is called Update and Security, and then going to Advanced Options. By the way, it's at this Windows settings category of Update and Security where you also can click on the words Check for Updates. I want to stress that when you're in the Updates and Security section of settings, I strongly advise against checking for updates, especially with this upcoming Windows version 2004. You'll learn why as I proceed through my session this morning. I'm going to talk for a moment about versions of Windows. The first version of Windows was called Windows 1 and was introduced nearly 35 years ago in November 1985. It was Microsoft's first true attempt at a graphical user interface, GUI, sometimes called GUI back in those days. Development was spearheaded by Microsoft founder Bill Gates and ran on top of the original MS-DOS disk operating system, Microsoft disk operating system, which relied on the command line input for inputting things into computer. This Windows 1 version was notable because it relied heavily on the use of a mouse before the mouse was a common computer input device. It was a bit less than 10 years later, August 24th, 1995, that Microsoft introduced Windows 95, which brought the first start button and start menu. Now, I remember August 24th, 1985 quite vividly because on that day, my wife and I were on a tour bus in Paris near the Champs-Élysées when we passed by a computer store heralding the arrival of Windows 95. I can still see that in my mind's eye. 20 years later, in July of 2015, this is after quite a few different versions of Windows, 98 and special edition, all those things. Anyway, Windows 7, Windows 8.1. Anyway, that Microsoft introduced the first version of Windows 10, which Microsoft heralded as the final version of their Windows operating system. Though Microsoft did indicate there would be version updates to Windows, what was not openly revealed at that time was that there would be constant operating system fixes, which would come frequently or typically on Tuesdays, which came to be known as Patch Tuesday. Well, we're now at the threshold of the 9th major version change to the Windows 10 operating system with this version 2004. The bad news is that this 2004 version has a lot of bugs. The good news is that, to the best of my knowledge, Microsoft has not yet started downloading this buggy version to users like you and I. However, I have a strong feeling that it's bound to happen within the next month or so, the downloading. By the way, if you have just recently intentionally downloaded this version 2004, Microsoft allows you only 10 days to reverse or undo the version before it becomes permanently installed on your computer. I'm sure that some of you don't pay a lot of attention to this updating of Windows 10 versions, but only know that once or twice a year, suddenly some things in Windows are different from what they used to be, and that perhaps your computer is not working properly in a couple of areas. If you're curious to know which Windows 10 version your computer is using, here's how you can find out. First, you go down the lower left-hand corner of your computer to the little Windows icon and click on it. You'll quickly find the settings about the second or third item up. It's that little gear wheel. Click on it. When settings open, click on the first icon, which is called System. Scroll down to the bottom of the items on the left and choose the word About. Then scroll about halfway down on the right side until you find the heading Windows Specifications. Right below it, you will find the word Version. It will quite probably read 1909. In other words, the 9th month last year. If you didn't receive that update, which was typically late 2019 or early 2020, it might read 1903 or March of 1903 when those updates started rolling out around May or June. I guess they were late. Anyway, regarding bugs in this latest version of Windows 10 2004, You may recall that several weeks ago, I told you about a bug in this version that involved defragging a solid state drive. The problem was that even if you had, as the user, selected to have the solid state drive defragging done once, let's say every 2 weeks, the operating system would still defrag the drive several times daily. Last month, I became aware of another bug, last Monday, I became aware of another bug that affects users who use the Windows email app to collect their Gmail or other email. The problem for a Florida user who had just downloaded the 2004 version was that the Windows Mail app was deleting Gmail messages and their attached photos before she could read them. You know, she knew she was going to be getting them and they were not there. The problem appeared to be caused by either this 2004 version update or possibly a late May update to just the Windows 10 Mail app. In any case, a real fix is yet to come for Microsoft on that problem. Naturally, the easy fix for this Gmail user is to receive her Gmail like most of us do using the Chrome browser. Okay, shortly, or of course, a lot of people read their mail on their phones. I guess it's through the Chrome browser, probably. Anyway, shortly after the release of Windows version 2004 on May 27th of this year, Microsoft issued a summary of 14 current active issues that which a few of which were just beginning to be solved and some others were not yet solved. Here are a couple that might be in the world we live in. Errors or unexpected restarts for some computers using always on or always connected network adapters. If you don't know about this, you probably don't have it. Another problem was that the print spooler might close unexpectedly when attempting to print, thus you couldn't print. Another one was there was some difficulty connecting to more than one Bluetooth device. And again, these are all problems that Microsoft has yet to solve unless been solved very recently. Again, please remember my earlier advice. Don't go to your Windows 10 settings to download the version 2004 update. Wait for Microsoft to download it on your computer and then be observant if anything begins working strangely or stops working properly. If a problem does occur, my suggestion is to carefully do a Google search to find out if it's a known issue, and if so, how to go about fixing it. Since I have little time left, I'll address another issue. Windows 10 will soon show Edge browser tabs when you do Alt-Tab. Now, what's this all about? Most of you know that in Windows 10, you can use the keyboard shortcut Alt+Tab to switch back and forth between your present task windows. In fact, Alt+Tab is often called the task switcher. Regarding the new Windows Edge browser that's based on the Chrome browser, Windows 10 will soon show all of your Edge browser tabs alongside with your Windows tabs. When this change becomes available, you can just use the new Microsoft Edge browser normally. When you press Alt+Tab, all of your browser tabs will appear with their own thumbnail as if they were their own browser windows. In the event you don't care for Microsoft, in case you don't care for this new Alt+Tab thing, you can disable it from settings under the menu item of System Multitasking. Go to Settings, System Multitasking. Microsoft revealed this feature on July 1, 2020, just 13 days ago. It's part of an insider build of Windows 10 and requires Microsoft Edge version 83 or newer. Likely it won't arrive until in a stable build of Windows until late this year or even early next year. Okay, so that's it. There's one other little item that I found curious. How many of you remember when Windows 10 was first introduced 5 years ago? One of the things that was openly spoken was that enjoy the control panel while you can, because it's going to soon disappear because of settings. Well, something that I just read very recently, in fact, was published just 4 days ago, said that Windows control panel is safe for now and may be safe for a long time. But there is one thing that is going to be going away in the control panel that many of you, I know I do, depend on. It's the system screen. So it looks like it's going to be going away sometime within the next year with a new Windows version. Well, I think that's about all I have for now. So I'll turn it back over to Ron. Thank you very much for inviting me to speak.
Thanks so much, Dewey. Well done, and good information. Thanks a lot. I read an article this morning about the new version of Chrome that's coming out, which is sort of interesting. In there, the new version of the next version of Chrome will be add significant life to your battery in your laptop. They're going to redo some of the programming, and they're going to run processes, particularly JavaScript processing, in the background at a much slower pace. And this will, and they're predicting this will give you an extra 20 or 30% life expectancy in your battery life. So this is very interesting, and maybe, you know, are we going to use Edge or are we going to do Chrome? Maybe this will be the breaker that's going to put everyone back to Chrome rather than Edge. Who knows? It'll be lots of interesting things happening there. Time for maybe one question or two before we have to go.
Ron, there's two in the chat box. The first one is, I have numerous photo albums. Is there an app available to scan or copy one album page at a time?
Numerous photo.
In other words, a whole page of pictures.
Oh, I see, a whole page of pictures in a picture photo album, and then you could, an app that would scan that and then do each picture then.
I remember with one of the scanners I owned over the years, it came with some software that you could do that, and it actually realized that each one was a separate picture and created a different JPEG for each one. I don't know if that kind of software is still available or not.
So my advice would be to take your camera, your digital camera, and just hold it over each of those pictures and just take a picture. That's what I showed you today, and that's how I did all my pictures, is I just took a digital camera over top and just took a picture of each of those pictures. So simple, like it's a super simple thing to do, and there's no software, no scanner, anything like that. So that would be my way of doing it. That's the way I did it with those pictures today.
And one other question in the same vein is, in addition to copying and minor edits, are you labeling the old pictures, names, approximate date, location, so that they will be somewhat meaningful to the next generation?
Right, and I didn't show you that because of time constraints, but of course you can edit each picture. You would put the date on there. You could say what the picture was, and you could geotag it as well, or not geotag it. You could, you know, put the location on there, and I didn't show you that. We don't have time to do that. Maybe we'll do that next week. But you can actually show the location where the picture was taken, because of course the picture I showed you of that was taken in 1914, it would be today's date, and it would show it was where it was taken would be here where I live now, which isn't true. It was taken in 1914, and it was taken in a town called North Battleford, right? So what you'd want to do is you'd want to change the date on it, and you'd want to also change where the picture was taken, and that's very easy to do in Google Photos. I would imagine a lot of other, I'm not sure about with Apple, I'm sure you must be able to do that and change those settings.
Okay,
Ron, may I make another comment on something?
Yeah, go ahead.
I had an experience this last week in which I learned that when you paste pictures into a Microsoft Word document, or copy pictures into, insert, I guess is the proper word, into a Microsoft Word document, they now are in much reduced resolution, maybe 1/4 to 1/6. That was not always true.
Yes.
And that's unfortunate. There's another point. Many people with scanners, common scanners that are with all-in-one type printers, that scanner resolution is quite low, and you will actually do better probably scanning by using your phone to carefully take a photo of a picture.
Right.
I have a photo scanner, and that is high resolution, so I'm lucky that way.
Right.
Okay.
Chris Gould from Geeks on Tour did an excellent video on this exact issue. And if you want to, it is a lot of people will copy and paste a picture over from Google Photos into a email. And that is, like Dewie said, a very low resolution, very, very low resolution. I mean, what you really want to do is download the image and then attach it after you've downloaded it onto your computer. So, otherwise, Dewie, you're absolutely right. Marshall, I see you have your hand up. You'll have to unmute yourself.
That's very unusual to be asked to unmute myself.
Yeah.
I usually say, will you please shut up? And before this whole project would begin, I consider myself an experienced professional in this regard, because I, like many other people, have done in the neighborhood of 7,000 photos that we have, family photos that we have scanned in for. But the most important question that I asked before I even began was ask the next generation, do you want these?
Right, exactly.
And you very likely are to find someone who is willing to assist in that project. So there's the thought.
There's the thought. All right, listen, you guys, I'm sorry. You know what time it is? It's 10 o'clock. Hey, Hewie, we did it again.
We did it again. We made it through another hour.
Thank you, Dewie, for helping. Thank you for Dewie. Bob will be back next week. Next week, we have Ray Baxter talking digital music. It's going to be a great show. And we're going to get Greg to do a show coming up as well on how to get up, because we can't get up if we get down. So Greg's going to help us with that. Right, Greg?
Yep.
There you go. We got lots of good shows coming up. We will see everybody back here at the same time, the same place, and the same old group. So we'll see you all again in 1 week's time. Bye for now.
Bye,
everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.